Hi and hello, welcome to EstiQ Media right here on YouTube. Now, I want you to subscribe, like, share, and comment. We actually have quite a lot of content on that particular channel. Now, we're on Spotify, we're on TuneIn, we're also on Amazon. So, there is a lot, and we have several channels through which you can have access to the content on EstiQ Media. Now, beyond news and political affairs, we also have various sectors and various topics, and various conversations that you can actually download the content either on YouTube or Spotify, whichever of them actually suits your listening pleasure. We have skincare, we have food pod, we have lifestyle, and a couple of things. Just you go on there and then click on any content that you love. However, what is the conversation today? There's quite a lot that has actually been going on in the political space right here in Nigeria. But of course, what is at the forefront is concerning the president's legitimacy that has been decided at the moment at the Supreme Court. Tomorrow, the Labour Party, the PDP, as well as the APC, well, their case will start off practically on October 26th. And until that happens, and we will now know who legitimately won the presidential elections on February 25. Now, while that is actually going ongoing, or while that is on the platter, we do have other cases that have been coming up surrounding the president, and that is starting off with the CSU certificate. It's a huge debacle. For the president, he hasn't actually come out to say anything, though. He has not responded. But his legal team, his spokespersons, have been the ones speaking on his behalf, and there have been so many updates on the president's CSU certificate. However, Atiku Abubakar is actually egging on, and he believes that he has the evidence to ensure that the president is not legitimized or authenticated by the Supreme Court as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. How that is going to be, we do not know, but we'll continue to have conversations on that. So I am not alone, all right? We're not going to be having this conversation alone. I actually have a former commissioner of police. His name is CP Chooks. CP.
Good evening to you.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, because it can be
Whichever.
any day in anywhere in the world.
Exactly.
I like you to look at the camera though while we're talking.
Thank you.
So, contrary to earlier reports, Judge Barry Howell of the U.S. District Court, District of Columbia, has not stopped the release of Nigeria's president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu's files by the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, you know, a particular Aaron Greenspan actually facilitated the process. And when he actually went to that particular judge to facilitate the process for the release of the records by the FBI, the judge asked him a question, and she asked, of what purpose is that particular document to you? Because Aaron Greenspan is the owner of a particular website called Plain Sight. I think it's about the freedom of release of information and data and all whatnot. I remember Bayo Onanuga, one of the spokesperson of the APC, made a statement that Atiku and Peter Obi are actually lobbying that guy. They've been writing to that guy to help them accelerate the process for the release of the FBI record so that they will quickly tender it at the Supreme Court as evidence. Well, when that happened, the judge actually did not pay attention to Aaron Greenspan. She said she's not going to release the document or ask the FBI to release those documents because of him, that she's not going to do that because he was not able to explain precisely what he needed or what interests the release of that record is to him. Okay. However, based on a particular informed source in the US who quickly reached out to a particular news outlet called News Express, they stated that it has not been stalled. The FBI still intends to release the president's record. In fact, the source was insistent that Tinubu's files would be released next week, Monday, October 30. And I want to read out what the source said. Judge Beryl Howell of the U.S. District Court, District of Columbia, has not stopped FBI and five other agencies' release of Tinubu's criminal files. What she declined was an emergency motion requesting for the files to be released before the initial October 30 scheduled release date. That's why she asked, of what use is this record to you that you want it to be released before the designed date that the FBI wants it released? Now, Aaron Greenspan of Plain Sight, an ally of David Hunde, whom you know as an investigative journalist, had wanted to pit the Nigerian Supreme Court, who are bent on rushing a judgment to affirm Tinubu despite his forgery of a Chicago State University certificate. Well, it's still alleged, it's not yet been concluded, and that's why the case is at the Supreme Court. By filing an emergency motion for the release of the FBI files before October 30. However, the FBI files, the date remains the same. By October 30, it's meant to be released, and the files from the FBI will surely, actually disclose a couple of things about President Tinubu. Now, the question is, Tinubu has actually asked the FBI not to release those files, stating that they are sensitive and stating that this is not a time for those files to be released. According to him, he wants to focus and see how he can turn around the Nigerian economy because we are hugely indebted. Also, he complained about security, which is a major factor that is bedeviling the Nigerian economy and that is making a lot of investors not come into the country to do what they need the needful is. Secondly, he also mentioned the fact that some economic policies are meant to be turned around. For example, you see the dollar to the naira, the disparity is major and is affecting every other sector of the Nigerian economy. What would you say concerning this development, CP?
Well, it's rather unfortunate that we have found ourselves in this situation, but we don't have a choice. We are going to move on with it. The only thing is that I will advise Nigerians to be very law abiding and be prayerful. They should try as much as they can not to cause any sort of violence or to incite any form
Hmm.
based on the outcome of the Supreme Court. Having said this, in relation to the CSU saga that's
Yes.
ongoing and the
Mm-hmm.
FBI files
Mm-hmm.
that is going to be released on the 30th, it's 4 days difference,
Okay.
and that is one. And two, even if FBI
Hmm.
had been coerced or compelled to have released it, which is not possible before the 30th, that does not translate to the
Okay.
fact that Supreme Court will still admit it. You know fully well that what they do more or less in Supreme Court is not to receive new evidence, except on exceptional circumstances,
Now, this
based on
exceptional circumstances is
exactly,
basically why there was a hearing two
yes,
days ago, October 23.
exactly,
Okay, so you are appealing to the Supreme Court that you want your case to be
exactly,
heard, isn't it?
exactly,
For Atiku Abubakar, he's actually asking the Supreme Court to allow him to enter fresh evidence, even if he knows that is something that is a very tiny window.
exactly,
The Supreme Court is liable to say, "Do not admit
exactly. That's the
this."
discretion I'm
That's the
talking
discussion.
about.
But then, based on the evidence he says he has, and which, well, you may actually include the fact that is a moral capacity. The
Yes,
president seems to be involved in an imbroglio, in a challenging situation. The
yes,
Supreme Court is morally upheld to possibly grant that opportunity. But then
yes,
they made a statement that day. They asked Atiku Abubakar to prove beyond reasonable doubt that the CSU certificate was indeed forged. They also alleged that they received two conflicting letters from that particular CSU that's college, that's institution.
yes,
So, a couple of critics, analysts, and legal practitioners are a little bit apprehensive that the Supreme Court may decide to use that conflicting motion to say, oh, well, you do not have your facts right. We're getting two conflicting letters from CSU. We may not admit this in evidence because you don't have something pure on ground. However, even if that's not the case, tomorrow the Supreme Court is to rule on their petition. Tomorrow, October 26th.
exactly.
How do you think this is going to how do you think this will shape the perception of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, shape the perception of Peter Obi and Atiku Abubakar, who are standing on the fact that they were the eligible winners of the February 25 election?
I think what I see playing out, in as much as I'm not going to preempt
Mm-hmm.
the outcome of the Supreme Court, whichever way the ruling goes, if it favors the present government and the incumbent, who is Atiku Abubakar, I don't think the other gladiators will go to sleep.
Okay.
In as much as the Supreme Court is the ultimate court of the land, is the apex court. There's no other place to go to unless you want to go to heaven and see
Mm-hmm.
God for judgment or justice, as the case may be. What I foresee coming out after the Supreme Court judgment, if it favors the incumbent, is that they will capitalize on whatever releases the FBI and these other DEA or whatever they call them, and other agencies, security agencies in the US will be revealing and releasing
Mm-hmm.
over time in tranches, because they say about 500 per month or something like that. So at the end of the day,
Mm.
whatever would have been released may be such that whoever is incumbent, if it is totally negative, cannot continue in office.
Okay, see
And
pictures.
two
Okay,
ways.
okay,
One, it is either he's forced to resign
okay.
or he may end up being impeached by the
Now,
National
see pictures.
Assembly.
There is something that is already circulating now.
Yes,
David Hundeyin released a Supreme Court file, which
yes,
is the hearing for
yes,
tomorrow
yes.
on the eligible winner of the February 25 elections.
Okay,
You remember that on October 23,
yes,
when they reserved judgment, they said they will communicate the next time the court will sit
yes,
to the petitioners, that
exactly.
is, those who filed the fresh appeal. Now, I
Yes,
want you to remember that the APC, the PDP, INEC, as well as Bola Tinubu, these are the individuals having to represent themselves.
exactly.
INEC is there to authenticate that they declared Tinubu as a winner.
Yes,
They want to verify that indeed this dispute is not true. We authenticated him. He won by every formal standard as required by the Electoral Act.
exactly.
Tinubu is there to defend himself, that regardless of whatever his opposition are bringing, he indeed won the elections. Peter Obi is there to say that there were infractions, anomalies, huge rigging, and the APC used their influence to curry the favor to themselves, that he is standing by the fact that he won.
Okay,
Atiku Abubakar there is there to also affirm that since he was declared second, ideally he ought to be first and not the second as declared by INEC.
exactly.
Now, David Hundeyin is saying something that because the FBI has decided that on the 30th of this month, October, they will release those records. The Supreme Court wants to be done with the hearing before then. Because
Exactly.
if that record is released before the hearing, then definitely it will be used by Atiku Abubakar as an evidence at the Supreme Court. But if the hearing is already done and dealt with, then possibly whatever evidence or document is brought up by the US will be of no significance. Do you think that speculation is actually true? Do you see a logic in that line of
There is a
thought?
logic. There is so much logic. That was why they hurriedly brought forward the date of the ruling to 26th, so that they won't be caught in the web of the controversies that will follow the outcome of the
Yeah, there.
releases that will be coming from 30th of October. But that is where I have said that Nigerians should be patient. They shouldn't. They should think before they act. They
Okay.
should not act before they think because of the
Okay.
consequences of doing the wrong things that will, break down the law and order across the nation. Having said that, that's why I said earlier that no matter the direction the decision of the Supreme Court goes, that's not the end of the road.
Okay.
They still have a window, because if the 2,500 releases or
Mm-hmm.
files are totally devastating and damaging, there's no way the man will continue to be
Are you
there.
sure? What if
He
after
will
the
have to
wait?
resign or he will be impeached.
What if the ruling tomorrow goes in his favor? Because
That's what I'm
as of
saying.
what I'm hearing, as
Yes,
of tomorrow, they're to decide.
yes,
Normally, the Supreme Court would have taken time. They still have
yes,
a couple of time to decide this matter.
exactly.
I was not even expecting them to call for the hearing tomorrow. I was thinking it would be next week because they would have taken their time to
I,
look at
I, I get,
through the
I get
cases.
what you're
So, what
saying.
if they declare the president? If they declare Tinubu the winner tomorrow, of what use will that no matter how
Oh,
indicting
they
the
think
document
no,
is?
no, 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 no. Nigerians will want to see the thing to the end, and the
See,
reaction,
see what to the end.
the releases.
Okay, it's released, but the case at the Supreme Court is already done
No,
with.
no, no. It has nothing to do with the Supreme Court anymore.
Okay,
It has
so
absolutely nothing to do with the ruling anymore.
okay.
It is now matter of morality and integrity
Do you
question.
think this administration cares about morality and
No, no, no.
integrity?
It will come to a point that it is either the man throws in the towel and quietly go away, or there will be so much pressure that National Assembly cannot sit until they do the needful.
CB I want to disagree with you. Considering how this administration has kicked off, the
Yes,
president has been unbothered ever since the CSU certificate saga. It
exactly,
doesn't even seem like he cares about what anybody is saying.
exactly.
The president's legal team sounded very confident when they stated, while they appeared during a conference call representing the president, while the
Yes,
deposition of Caleb Westberg was ongoing. They were confident that our electoral system is different from that of the US, and whatever Atiku Abubakar is trying to get out is definitely fruitless. They literally said the PDP is on a fishing expedition. Beyond that, they were also very certain that the Supreme Court would not admit any fresh evidence.
of
So
course.
why is the PDP going through all this? Despite this entire saga that has widened the distrust of the people and the president has not responded or reacted as if no, he knows what is going on. He has acted in the capacity as he deems fit. At the moment, 160 million naira, 160 million naira has been released to purchase Toyota Highlander vehicles for House of Rep members and some senators, and they have backed it up. Meanwhile, they say that we do not have money in our treasury and we're running an overbloated government. Nigerians cried out because the economy is stringent and very stifling and difficult for people. But they didn't say anything. The president did
Yes.
not make mention of anything. So
Yes.
I'm asking you, do you think this administration is bothered whatsoever about how Nigerians react in terms of morality or whatever?
Absolutely, they are not.
So
They are
when
not.
you're countering what you just said, that even if the Supreme Court rules in his favor and the
Yes.
FBI releases the document on October 30,
Yes.
that he would have no choice than to throw in the towel or
One way
just
or the National Assembly will do something.
now. Do you
And if
think
the two fails,
mhm,
I don't want to predict what will happen. I'll just leave
nothing
it
will
like
happen,
that.
CP Chooks?
I will not want to predict because it might come to a point that there will be mass action.
What action, CP?
No, no, no.
The president have put key persons in key
No, no,
positions
no. Listen.
that would handle things for him. That's one. Two, you recall that Godswill Akpabio is there to do the president's diggings.
No, no,
They
no.
wouldn't bring up this matter at the
No, no.
National
What I'm
Assembly.
saying by mass action is not bringing in violence.
Okay.
But people will do what they call down to rule work, that's down tools and work to rule action. Good number of people will not go to work. People will go and block the National Assembly and tell them they will not sit until they do the right thing. There will be a lot of reactions that you see social unrest across the length and breadth of the nation. Things will not move. I'm trying to tell you.
CP, I don't know.
Yes.
The current state of the Nigerian economy now,
Yes. It's even
it's
an
it's it's
issue.
it's, it's a problem because I recall when NLC said they wanted to down tools. I went to the streets to feel the pulse of people. I asked questions, and they were like, even if what the NLC is trying to do is in their favor, they would rather prefer that the NLC does not go on that particular strike
Yes.
because it will not favor them. Rather, it will only favor these political elites they think they are fighting against. There is hunger in the land. Don't
Yes.
you understand that the elites deliberately put some situations in the Nigerian polity to disenfranchise the people? When you starve the people to a certain point, you pummel them to a certain level, they would not be able to react. They will just take anything as it comes. All they look forward to is to exist daily. So when you say that the mass action would be civil society organizations calling out the president, calling out the National Assembly, downing tools, I don't see that happening because he has placed persons in the polity. You have the Senate president that will do his bidding. You have the deputy Senate president that will do his bidding. You've installed persons that will help him check if at all any uprising wants to commence. How do you think there'll be any effective measure after tomorrow? Because the idea for those FBI files is to be released and then it's at the Supreme Court, proven beyond reasonable doubt the ineligibility of the president to be the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But if there is no tangible evidence presented at all, especially coming from the FBI, it's obvious that there is a possibility that the Supreme Court ruling will tilt in the favor of the president.
Of
So if
course.
the release of the FBI records comes on October 30, it's just for the consumption of Nigerians. But then it will be of no use at our law courts.
Well, when we get there, we'll see how it plays out. I don't want to preempt both the Supreme Court judgment and the outcome of those releases.
Okay?
But obviously, Nigerians have they've stomached so much. They have taken a lot, and it is just the grace of God that has been restraining them because it got to a point that they almost entered the streets from the pulse we were feeling. But they were being pleaded with to look, let the rule of law and due process be followed.
So you believe that civil society organizations, protests, downing of tools may take place if on October 30 the FBI releases its records and they are indicting, and even if the Supreme Court has given their judgment, that the pulse of the nation will need to be listened to by the president and his team.
That is obviously what it is. That's what civilized climes do, and
Okay?
they are the ones we are emulating. Let us hope we'll still emulate them to that extent. Not question of saying we have taken democracy and civil or civilian
Mm-hmm.
dispensation as our way of governance, and then at the end of the day, we are still contradicting ourselves. by doing things in very dictatorial directions
Nonsense.
and thinking that because we are holding positions of authority, we can do whatever we like and get away with it, and that nothing is going to come out of it.
Mm.
So I believe people are wiser by the day. People are beginning to, the reaction and the attitude of people is quite at variance with the
Okay.
way they would have reacted some years back.
Back.
So that's why I said I keep counseling and advising that people shouldn't take the path of violence. They should do more of watch, negotiate, dialogue, and move on. At the end of the day, maybe it will work out things positive. But if it doesn't, they'll still have a way around it to take us to the El Dorado.
All right, Super Chooks, thank you so much. I know that I've kept you for I know you were rushing to go, but thank you so much for taking this little time to help explain these issues.
Thank you
All
to
right,
you
this is
too.
EstiQ Media right here, and we are currently on YouTube at the moment. I would implore you to subscribe, like, share, comment, be part of the conversation. And as I told you while I was introducing the video, I will actually have other contents and other channels through which you can download this content, which is on Spotify, Amazon, and TuneIn. So remember that we are actually looking out for you. If you want concrete information, information that is top notch, current, and actually true to time, here is your plug.